Hi, everyone. Welcome to the October 22nd LTS working group meeting. My name is Jeremy, and I'll be the host today. We have the agenda in the chat in just 1 second when I put it in the chat. Grab it. There we go. Okay. Welcome again, everybody. Don't have much of the agenda today. If you would like to add anything, please feel free to add to the open discussion section. First up, if you would like to add your name to the list of attendees, that'd be great. So we just have a record of who is here. And if you've never been here before, go ahead and introduce yourself. All right. So the two topics on the open discussion for today there are two contributor summit sessions. They unfortunately are currently at the same time, so we are going to work with the content team to move them. See if I can bring up Sketch and share schedule, and we can maybe see if there's a time that anybody prefers. So let me share my screen. We'll take a look at the Contributor Summit schedule. Is anybody going to be at Contributor Summit?
I do plan to be there.
Thumbs up from Jordan. Bridget there, I'll be there. All right, so the two sessions are at
They're both at 10:45. If you could zoom in a bit,
sorry.
this is very small.
How's that?
Better, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So 10:45 is when both of these sessions are. Unfortunate because they're both related topics. Looks like we could maybe have one of them at 10:20. Probably the working group LTS proposal to increase.
Sorry, you mean 11:20.
Yeah, sorry, 11:20. Trying to do the math in my head. 11:20 or 11:55. I think we definitely don't want to overlap 12:30 because Han is doing that one too. Does anybody have any preferences on when they would like to see one of them moved?
I think that there's a slight amount of overlap topic-wise with the 11:55 a.m. CRD discussion that Nick and Rob will be running, because that also has versioning APIs, could fly into the LTS territory because it's the CRDs and multiple versions discussion.
Yeah.
So I would say that one is slightly, possibly something we wouldn't want to overlap.
Yeah, I think that one especially probably we don't want to overlap with the Kubernetes upgraded topic. So my proposal would probably be to move working group LTS proposal to 11:20 and try to move one of the 11:20 ones to the 10:45 slot.
But there's only 3 currently listed in 11:20, and there's currently 4 in 10:45 and 11:55. I guess what I'm saying is they could move one or not move one as they so choose, which gives you maximum flexibility, I guess. Yeah.
I thought some of these were longer, but I guess these are both 25 minutes. So that's probably fine. One of these rooms, I think this one is a 55-minute session, so it'll take up, I think, this block as well. Okay, so we think that
yes, I see. The cluster API status update is 55 minutes.
So
gotcha.
Working group
so
LTS,
something would have to move.
Yeah, so working group LTS to 11:20 is probably the.
And I think any of those 3 that they would be okay with. Maybe not the contributing one, since there's already a contributing topic that Caslin and Mario are running.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe moving one of those to the 12:30 slot.
That's also a good idea.
I'm really sure what's up with 12:30. Why do we only have one thing at that time?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
everyone's going to be hungry and grouchy. So,
yeah.
So we thought we'd just let Han talk to them in that state.
Oh, poor Han. But
the last thing
the other
between
thing
people
is,
and lunch is always a
it
good
looks like
spot.
Han also has, notice that that would put Han, you can't put, if it's, yeah, it's the same Hong Kong.
Mhm.
Yeah, it can't be the upgraded one. So we'd have to, I think moving LTS is fine. Where we move it, like, I don't really care, as I don't want to overlap the CRD discussion. That's the only one I don't want to step on.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so if we could swap with something in 1120 for the working group LTS proposal, that would probably be ideal. And it would probably be C groups V2 or task grid would be the things we'd be swapping with.
Yeah. Actually, splitting the test grid and the contributing one might be helpful if it seems like both of those would be useful to sort of newer folks who are less familiar.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Right, but it looks like we have two new contributor things. We have the yellow one and the orange one. So anyway,
Fitting a finite number of things into an even smaller number of slots is hard.
Should do something simpler like the traveling salesman problem.
all right. Jeremy, do you want to reach out to the summit?
Yeah, I already talked to the summit
Good.
staff about moving it. I wanted to
Wonderful.
come today and find out what times people prefer before I suggested one.
Wonderful.
Okay, thanks for the input, everybody. I will follow up in the chat after, into the Slack channel afterwards, and we can figure out what a good time is. All right, second thing on the agenda. This was a long open item that we suggested from survey data and from Jordan's regressions data. And Jordan, I think, has a PR open for this now, which is great. Right here. Basically strengthening the cherry pick guidelines and what qualifies for cherry picking to release branches and what doesn't. I think this is good. I've given an LGTM already. Uh, I think that it probably makes sense to send some communications to the developer list, just with a heads up and say, hey, we're going to strengthen this up. I don't think it really introduces a ton of changes. It's just kind of rearranging the wording and strengthening the wording a little bit, but it doesn't, to me, feel drastically different. Like it needs to have a wide discussion period.
Yeah,
So I think it's worth sending a heads up. But if anybody wants to take a look at this before we get it approved, because I think it's just waiting for the slash approve now. Um, I think this would be an ideal time to do that. Did you have anything you wanted to specifically bring up in this PR, Jordan?
No. Oh, a couple, like some of the prerequisite changes for dependency updates that wasn't listed before. That was kind of a thing that we realized sometimes we have to do when we're like updating Go versions or something.
Yeah,
And then I did add like test only
only
changes
changes.
if there's a failing or flaky test. Like that wasn't a category we had in there before, but that is a thing we accept
We
in
do
our
quite
CI.
often.
Like red or
Yeah.
Christmas green, we will accept stabilizing only changes. Anyway, so I think this matches our practice more closely
Yeah.
than it did previously.
I think that the cherrypicks.md file is the right place for this level of detail. I kind of wonder if there is anywhere else in the docs that people might quickly read and maybe not review very frequently, and like just to kind of make sure that it's in people's checklist. And I can look around and see if I see a different place, but I want to say there's at least one or two places where there's a link without a lot of explanation. Maybe just like, this is your menu options have changed, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, go read these, they changed. We
This
might want
also,
to.
I think this is the link target for every cherry pick PR that they create using the script as well.
think so.
Right, right. I think that's the link. I'm just saying, like, is there anywhere else people might start the process and not read this whole link? That's my question. Yeah.
Mm.
Like where we have to tell them, go read this.
Yeah. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but if people think of them or find them, we can certainly be clearer in those places. I think we probably do want to keep one spot
Canonical. Yeah.
where we have the categories and requirements and whatever. But yeah, if we have anywhere where we're saying like, and then cherry pick to release branches, like if it falls into the categories described here, like, yeah. I did update the regression data. We want to spend like 3 minutes looking at that.
Sure.
Oh, yes. Thank you. By the way, I just saw that message right before this meeting and I was like, wonderful, Jordan. Thank you so much.
My semi-annual depressing look at all the things we regressed. Are you able to share? I can try to pull it up.
Yeah. Where is that?
I
He
linked
put a
it
link
on
in the agenda.
Oh, okay.
It's
Sorry.
It's the next item.
Yeah, I didn't look at the agenda again.
That's what I get for post-editing the agenda after we started the meeting.
Okay, let me share my screen again.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So 127 finished out, hit end of life. It had a pretty bad trajectory at the beginning, but then the last like several months, it slowed down quite a bit. Like one would trickle in, one or two. Still wasn't great. Still never completely flattened out, but 128 was really solid. 129 looks to be pretty decent. 130 had some pretty big jumps right out of the gate. If we jump to regression details tab, and then just like open up that first link.
Which one? The first link under
130. Scroll all the way to the right. Sorry.
130. Yeah.
130. Yeah, open up that first link. And then you can take the date range off. So it just shows all the regressions for 130 so far. There were a fair number that are actually pretty low impact. There's like some OpenAPI doc tweaks that like confused things that generate clients from OpenAPI. So it's like a very indirect type of regression. None of our clients were affected, and it got out in the wild, and someone tried to regenerate their client, and then it complained about it. So it was like they told us, and we fixed it, and the OpenAPI doc was correct then. There was some kubeadmin refactors that got out, and then people were like, oh, the invocation that used to work just doesn't even work anymore. And so like these sort of fail fast regressions are annoying, and we don't want them. But in terms of severity, it wasn't like there was a latent bug in someone's cluster that bit them in production. It's like, oh, I tried to upgrade to the 130 libraries or the 130 OpenAPI, and the thing isn't there anymore. Can you please undo that in the branch? So I would say about maybe a third. Maybe a third were things like that. A third were sort of normal. We discovered a behavior that regressed. But then we also had a spurt of regressions in patch releases. Some of them were performance, some of them were panics. And so if you go back to the spreadsheet, so we're 6 months in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months in. We have 15. I would guess about 5 were those sort of fail fast, like an option just went away. Maybe 5 or 6 were sort of normal regressions, and then maybe 3 or 4 were like patch regressions. So if you go to the next tab, the patch regressions, analysis, sorry, 2 tabs over.
Yep, sorry.
These are all of the pull requests that actually regressed something in a patch release. And so by minor, so the first column is the minor version, like 130, 131, whatever. The second column is how many patch releases we've had on that minor so far. So 128 and up are still, accumulating patch releases. The next column is how many of those patch releases regressed something relative to the .0 release of that minor. So a backport that we brought in caused a problem. And then like what percent of the patch releases had regressed. So this is what that backport tightening policy is trying to fix. Saying like we can't take back changes we are not 100% sure about. And so we saw things that went back, like that were trying to be performance improvements that introduced panics or introduced other performance regressions. Anyway, I know I'm sort of preaching to the choir in this group, but if you're looking for like specific examples or evidence about why this is so important, or you're looking at a particular backport and it looks pretty complicated or pretty gnarly, it's like, are we sure this is safe? Like, we know it fixes this one bug. Are we sure it doesn't introduce another bug? Hopefully this is a resource to like say, there were a lot of other times we thought we were really sure and we just totally broke stuff. So
yeah,
let's only take back safe stuff. Anyway, this is like data. It's always good to back up assertions with data. So that's the goal. So 131, we're doing good so far. We've only had one patch release, but it didn't regress anything that we know of yet.
So far.
Yeah. So 92% of the minor versions since 119 have regressed in a patch release, which is all of them except 131. And it's young yet.
Okay, so question for you, Jordan. Do you think that you want to add a section in the canonical cherrypicks.md file we were just talking about that helps people understand in this file, like, just so you know, we may not take your cherry pick, and here's some solid data as to why? Like, if that's the canonical place people are going to read when they want a cherry pick?
Yeah. I'm happy to add that. I think the language already kind of implies that we won't, but making it explicit that's fine.
Right. Because I mean, right now it talks about what kind of PRs are good for cherry picks. And I'm wondering if we need something explicitly the opposite. Like, here are some kinds of PRs that you might not be considered just in this general category, and here's some data showing why. Or how you get past scrutiny, and it's like, here's why.
Yeah. Some of the examples in the list are like, some are really big, and if you looked at them, you'd think, oh well, yeah, obviously that's going to regress something. Like, that's gigantic. How could that possibly be 100% perfect? But then there are others where it was like a one-line change that was fixing some bug, and it's like, oh, this is great. This is fixing a bug. It's super tiny. How, this is great. This is exactly what we want. And it actually like inverted some condition and may cause some other bug. And so like, I think we've proven that there is no such thing as a foolproof change, especially the more code paths go through the thing that's being changed. So yeah, I don't want to like come read this cherry pick doc and then like punch people in the face. Like, we probably won't take your change. It's probably terrible. You don't know it's okay.
I mean, you do say please reconsider, but I feel like maybe a little bit more color there that tells people why they would want to reconsider.
Yeah. I try to be
because risks exist and we've encountered regressions in the past, and risks could exist that are outside the scope of what you're thinking about. If upon reflection you wish to continue, bolster your case, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. All right. I think I'd like to let this one merge, and then I'll do a follow-up to kind of flesh out that sentence more.
That sounds good. I can send an email after we're done here to the dev list with my SIG release hat on, if that sounds good to everybody.
Sure. If you want to reference this
I was going to.
as well.
Yeah, I took a couple of notes while you were talking of things that I wanted to include in the email.
Cool. That's all I had on this one.
All right. Do we have anything else as a late breaking agenda item? Doesn't look like it. All right. Well, we'll call it a day early then and give some folks some time back. It's great to see everybody. Hope to see everybody at KubeCon. Just gonna look at the calendar. Do we have? I haven't even been paying attention to what the date is. It's the 22nd. How many more days do we have until KubeCon?
I have this meeting November 5th.
Yes. Okay.
But if
Okay.
we want to cancel it for pre-KubeCon / people who live in voter suppression areas of the US are going to spend the day standing in line reasons, we certainly could.
Okay. I think I'm going to be out that day, but I don't know for sure. I think my kids have an assembly in the morning. Yeah, they do.
I just figured the week before KubeCon is when all of us are finishing our talks, and
That is also true.
so having a meeting we don't have to have seems like a one that is great to cancel. So I
Yeah.
vote for cancel, but I guess we'll see if Micah or Jordan wants to run it.
Okay. We'll propose that into the Slack channel as well for folks to weigh in on. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. See ya.
Yeah.